everybody, welcome to Creative Scrapbooker Magazine. I'm so glad you joined me today because today I am going to walk you through the process of how to finally get your embossing folders organized. So let's talk about tools. If you're Kathy Craft Room and you always only scrapbook or paper craft at home, having something that your tools are readily available, easy to see, easy to get to, is key to really being productive when you're crafting. So something like the Die Stamp and Supply Organizer is a perfect tool for holding all different shapes and sizes of embossing folders. The sections in it are somewhat customizable, so you can go small to large. It's easy to label and find exactly what you're looking for. So if you always craft at home, something from the Desk Made product line is a great option for you. If you sometimes craft at home and you sometimes travel, you might want to consider a notebook option. So this is our 12 by 12 craft supply binder, and a couple of different scrap rack pages will work in the binder, but one of the best ones for embossing folders is going to be our FLIPPIN storage page. And if you haven't seen the FLIPPIN storage page before, it's got this little plastic cover on it, and then it has FLIPPIN storage pockets, 6 on the top, 5 on the bottom. The top are 4 by 6 and the bottom are 5 by 7. So just a natural fit for all kinds of card making supplies, but perfect for 4 by 6 or 5 by 7 embossing folders. There's also this little flap that goes over the top and kind of locks it down so your FLIPPIN pockets don't flip until you want them to flip. And then this is going to fit again in the 12 by 12 craft binder or on your scrap rack. Standard 3-hole punch, but big 12.5 by 12.5. If you want to work with this little bit smaller binder, something that you can easily stand up on a shelf, especially if you're crafting at home, the 3-inch FLIPPIN storage binder is going to give you the same idea in FLIPPIN pages. 4 by 6 pockets on the front that you can flip through, and then on the back side are the 5 by 7 pockets, and again, those flip the same way. So really easy to bring this off the shelf, put it in your crop tote, or bring it to your workspace. Easy to label on the side and really get your embossing folders organized. You might have noticed as I'm going through these products that my embossing folders all have little numbers on them, and that's part of our cataloging process. We're going to talk about the actual process of organizing your embossing folders in the next little segment here. Last but not least, this is the 4 by 6 fab file. Perfect, of course, for 4 by 6 embossing folders. But if you also use 5 by 7 embossing folders, you may want to use the 5 by 7 fab file or a combination of the two. This little guy will hold a couple of dozen embossing folders, and it's really easy to label them and then find exactly what you're looking for. So again, a good option if you're going to take this off the shelf and bring it to your workspace. It has a little pop-out handle on the side, or you can put it right into your crop tote and take it with you if you're more of a merry mobile maker. So there are a few different options: the Die Stamp and Supply Organizer by Desk Made, the FLIPPIN storage binder, the 3-inch FLIPPIN storage binder, or the 4 by 6 or 5 by 7 fab file. If you don't have a lot of embossing folders, I'm going to say 25 or less, you're just going to use something like the fab file to keep them all together. If that's the case, you just want to organize them within that box into categories. So Christmas, Easter, borders and backgrounds, sentiments, if you have one that says thank you, and then you're just going to put them in order and add a little label to them. So in this case, this is a Christmas embossing folder. I have labeled it with penguins for Christmas, a little tab, so when it's in there I can read it. I also put the little example from the packaging right on the front of the embossing folder. So it's hard to know what embossing folders look like because they're just white plastic. This is the same thing from the packaging, right? Why is this one flapping around and this one's nice and flat? This one was just paper within the packaging, so it's really flat. I just cut it off the packaging, ran it through my Xyron, and stuck it onto the front of the embossing folder. This one was printed on the cardstock backing. If I left it on there, if I glued it on like this and I ran it through my machine, it would have a flat square where this was because it's so thick. So by just hinging it on there, I can see what the picture looks like, but I can fold the hinge back, and when I feed it through my machine, it's not going to get that square, and then it's still there when I'm done. So if you don't have a lot of embossing folders, choose your tool and then organize them, themes and sentiments, holidays and seasons, borders and backgrounds. So those are going to be your categories. Put a little label tab on them, and you know me, I am always using shut your flap tabs for everything, and this is no exception. So I used our little plastic sticky note shut your flap tabs in the small to label these in the small 4x6 fab file box, right? Super simple. If you're an embossing folder junkie, which most of us are, we have many more than 25, and we have every intention of adding to our collection, then you're going to want to create a catalog of those embossing folders so that you have a quick reference to all the embossing folders that you have and where they are. What do you need to create your catalog? You are going to need something to label your catalog pages with. So you know me, I love to use our shut your flap tabs for everything. I use the small ones in the box, but I'm going to probably use the larger ones on my pages, on my catalog pages. You are going to need some crayons, right? What a good excuse to buy a new box of crayons. A marker, a label maker if you are obsessed with neatness and you want to make sure that everything is all neat and tidy. You're going to need some kind of paper to create your catalog on. I like to use 12 by 12 paper because it fits in everything else that I work with. In this case, I'm using this old paper. I had a whole pad of black and white paper that I never used, and so I'm just going to use the white side to create my catalogs. And then you're going to need some sort of page protector to store your catalog in, and a ruler, again, if you're obsessive. This ruler is awesome because it has a little, I don't know if you can see this, but this middle part pushes down and it's rubbery. So once I get it lined up, I can push down on it and it stays in place, that rubber. So that's an awesome little tool right there. All right, so then what do? You've got all the supplies you need. The first thing you're gonna do, which seems very counterintuitive, is you are gonna take whatever storage tool you chose to use. In this case, I'm looking at the 3-inch FLIPPIN storage binder, and you're gonna go into it and you're gonna number every pocket and page in that binder. So this is page 1. It has folders 1 through 6 on the, or 1 through 5 on the front, 6 through 10 on the back. Page 2 has 11 through 15, right? So I've labeled all of the pockets and pages. You can see I just put in little sticky notes with the pocket number, and then I loaded in the embossing folders. That seems counterintuitive. Before you make your catalog, you want to load all your, whatever tool you choose, you want to fill it up with your embossing folders, because that's how you're going to know how to mark your embossing folder, right? So my number one embossing folder, right? It's going to go in the number 1 pocket. I'm going to take my little number 1 thing that I made from my printer, from my label maker. This is now embossing folder number 1, right? It's going to go, because it's going in pocket number 1. Boom. I'm going to slide it in there, okay? You still can't tell what this looks like in the pocket. If you make a crayon rubbing, you can put the crayon rubbing in the pocket with the embossing folder, and now you can see what the pattern is right in the embossing folder. So if you don't have the packaging like this to put on there, you can create that same idea, just making a crayon rubbing of that border or background or whatever it is that's on that embossing folder, and it's going to go in that pocket number 1. You can see, here's the one where I had the little cutout from the packaging, and then down here, this is also the packaging, what that embossing folder looks like, right? Diamond plate. So that's a way for you to really see what each embossing folder looks like just by flipping through your binder. Now, if I'm going to create a catalog of all my embossing folders, I'm going to use the same crayon rubbing technique, and I'm going to, for borders and backgrounds, so that's mostly what we have in embossing folders, right? I'm going to take one piece of 12 by 12 paper, and I just segmented it off into nice, neat little squares. You don't have to make it nice and neat, but if you are a little bit obsessive like I am, then that's going to be your thing of choice. Then I'm just going to take a crayon, and in that square, I'm going to do a rubbing that's going to give me an idea of what that looks like. You can go all the way to the edge of the square. Now, one tip that I should tell you is if you're doing the rubbing on the separate piece of paper, it's easier to do it on a big piece of paper and then cut it out second than it is to cut it out and then rub it, right? So now I've got that image there, so I know that this is kind of a floral pattern. Now I can go back to my label maker. If I had my glasses on, I would know what I was doing. I'm hoping I'm getting a number 1. Or you can just write in the square, whatever you want to do. That's up to you. It just depends on your... And I'm going to take that same number. So this is the reason that it doesn't matter if you organize your embossing folders by theme or sentiment or borders, backgrounds, whatever it is. Because wherever they go in the catalog, right, is going to direct you when you're looking at the catalog, oh, that's embossing folder number 1. It's in my storage binder 1 through 30 because it's number 1. You can go right to the binder and get that exact thing. Now I have my sample, the embossing folder, and I can add a number to this sample as well. If I want to put a nice, neat, tidy little number 1 on there, I can do that as well. This is going to stay in the pocket, so it's not necessary. It just depends on how much you like to use your label maker, whether or not your label maker will cut your labels. So I'm going to just put this on there for fun because I like my label maker. And then I'm going to store it away in my folder. Now, the next step is to just proceed through your binder. So example, numbered, binder pocket, numbered. My next one already has, number 2, already has the example on it, right? It's still a borders and background embossing folder. So I'm just going to go to the next square and repeat the process. Now, you can also do this. I'm going to choose a different color. You can, if you would like, you can make 2 squares of each embossing folder so that you get the negative and the positive. I've done that before. Okay, so now I've got this number 2. I can make another number 2. And I'm going to proceed through all of the embossing folders in my binder, because the first thing I'm going to do is fill that binder up with the embossing folders. So many of our embossing folders are what I can call borders and backgrounds, or backgrounds. There are also borders, I guess. I'm going to do those on a separate piece of paper. But there are a ton of just background embossing folders. Some background embossing folders are also themes. So you might have one, well, you might have one that's birthday party hats. So that would go on your calendar on a page called birthday. And it would also go in your borders and backgrounds. Now, if I said this was embossing folder number 6, which is a 5x7 embossing folder, it's in pocket number 6. This is a Christmas pattern. So I am not going to put it on my borders and backgrounds page. I am going to go to a page that I've labeled Christmas. Okay. And I'm going to do that rubbing on the Christmas page. Now again, you can choose to do the whole thing or just a part of it. I'm just going to do a part of this one to give me the idea, to remind me that I actually have it, right? And I'll do a little more, I guess. And I'm also going to do a little rubbing of the coordinating border. So I know that I have the coordinating border that goes with this. I'm going to do it in green. Look at me with the red and green. So classic. So now I know that I've got the embossing folder and I've got the border. They both match, and they go in pocket number 6. So I'm going to create I'm going to create 1, 2, 3 6s. So if these two things get separated, I know where they have to put them back. And now on my Christmas page, I'm just going to label that number 6. So it doesn't matter. I've got a whole set of Anna Griffin Christmas embossing folders. I'll put them all on the Christmas page. I'll number them all with wherever they're going to be in my binder or in my die stamp and supply organizer. And then when I'm looking for options for Christmas, I will be able to look at my Christmas catalog and see that I've got these wonderful embossing folders, which I may have otherwise forgotten to use. Now, if you are someone who also likes to catalog your supplies by the designer, you could create another page for your catalog that's just labeled Anna Griffin. And that way, if you want to keep all of your Anna Griffin things together on a page and know what you have, and if you are a collector of a particular designer, I would definitely recommend it, because sometimes when you're shopping, especially if you're shopping online, you don't want to buy duplicates. So now I've got pocket number 6, and this is embossing folder number 6 with the coordinating border right here in my binder. And I'm just going to fill it, I'm going to put all my embossing folders in the pockets, and then I'm going to go through and add them into my calendar. So if I was going to do, if I collected Anna Griffin, I'm going to put this in a pocket. So I use this black and white paper, right? So actually I'm going to do it this way. Let's see Christmas. This is B backgrounds. I'm going to label it. So I have some little pre-done little cheaters here. So I've got my backgrounds tab. I'm going to put that on this side. And I've got my Christmas tab. I'm going to put that on the opposite side. And then I made a little tab for Anna Griffin. So if I did do that rubbing of the Anna Griffin work, here's why I love sticky divider tabs, because the Anna Griffin, Anna starts with A, and so she should be further up the top of the page, right? So when you use repositionable tabs like these and you add something, it's easy to change the location of the label tabs and keep everything in order. So now I can do a rubbing of the Anna Griffin, put it in this pocket, and then have backgrounds, and then have Christmas. And I'm going to be able to take all of these sheets and put them into a binder. I can add to them, I can rearrange them. As I buy new embossing folders, this is one of the beautiful things about cataloging. Take a step back here. If you keep all of your embossing folders together by theme, holiday, event, so all of your Christmas embossing folders together, all of your background embossing folders together, and then you get a new one, but you're out of space, you have to start a whole new Christmas binder, but you only have one. And so you have all this empty space in the binder waiting to collect more Christmas embossing folders. But if you catalog them and give them a number, you can mix Christmas and birthday and background all in one binder, because where you're going to find the information about what you own is in your catalog. So you can do this with embossing folders, stamps, dies, punches, any of the tools that we use, and you can find other videos about that as well. But it's a super easy way to keep track of what you have and also reference back to what you have. So I'm going to work through all of my embossing folders. I'm going to add them to my catalog using rubbings. You can also add them to your catalog if you want to run each individual one through your embossing machine, through your Spellbinder or your Gemini or whatever you're using. If you want to, cut all those papers and do that. I've just found that doing the rubbings is a little bit faster and a little bit easier. So I think that wraps it up. You have a couple of things to do to get your embossing folders organized. First thing is choose your organization tool. Are you going to use a binder, a box, something on your desktop? The second thing you're going to do is, which I didn't even talk about, you're going to create a themes and sentiments list. And that themes and sentiments list is going to list all the things that you craft about. So that's going to be beach, baby, birthday, bath time, thank you, bon voyage, whatever it is. And that is going to tell you what your categories are, right? So you're going to be able to put those in alphabetical order. Then you're going to gather up all of your embossing folders. You're going to label your storage tool first, and then you're going to load your embossing folders into your storage tool. Then you're going to use the numbers where they're located in your storage tool and create your catalog sheets, right? Super simple. Remember, you can do this not only for embossing folders, but for other tools as well. Thanks so much for tuning in today. It was great having you in class. If you have questions or comments or you need a little help, you can always find us on the internet at totally-tiffany.com. You can email and you can even call us as well. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon.